Imagine a D&D campaign with a dozen people in it. How about 20 people or even 50 people? You might not believe it, but that's what it said in the original rules of Dungeons & Dragons in those first 3 little books Gary Gygax put out in the 70s. Check this out. 4 to 50 players can be handled in a single campaign. Without more context, that probably sounds like a typo or maybe a nightmare, but rest assured they're not all sitting around the table at the same time, I promise. Maybe on special occasions. There's more in this little introductory piece too. The referee to player ratio should be about 1 to 20 or thereabouts. So referee became dungeon master, maybe obviously, but I bet most of you have never heard of having multiple DMs in a campaign, and we'll talk about that. But first, just think about what it would be like to have a big pool of potential players so that on any given day you could send out a message saying, hey, I'm free tomorrow night, who wants to play some D&D, and get a game together just like that. For those of us burnt out from scheduling conflicts and last-minute cancellations, that sounds more fantastical than the stories of magic and monsters that we're telling around the table. But check this out. I polled the community about how often they're playing, and this was last month before the schedule disruption of the holidays started kicking in, and half of us are sitting at around 0 to 1 times per month. If you are part of that number, right? Or you just want to get more gaming in, this is for you, because we are talking about a way that can help you play way more D&D, that can change things up and be a whole lot of fun in the process. But first, story time. Don't tell the grognards in the comment section, but back at the turn of the century, my friends and I weren't playing D&D on game night. We were playing poker. Rounders had just come out. A lot of us had after-school jobs, so we had some, disposable income, and cards were a great excuse to get everybody together and hanging out. Every hand, we'd change who the dealer was, and the dealer decided what game we were playing, what was wild, all of that. And they could change it every time the deck came around back to them. Then ESPN put the World Series of Poker on TV, and it exploded. And now everyone wanted to play No Limit Texas Hold'em. At our table, some nights the dealer could still call, Suicide Jacks or Low in the Hole is Wild, but we were always playing the same game. And we were playing it tournament style, winner takes all. That's the only way you can have those dramatic all-in moments. And it really changes your strategy. And it also makes it almost impossible for people to come and go. If you came in late, we probably wouldn't want you to buy in. And if you wanted to leave poker night before everything was over, you basically had to lose. Now, I was pretty good and not great, but my Achilles heel is that I'd get tired. If we were playing a different style, I could have cashed out and left when I felt finished, or if I had to get home because I had to wake up early or whatever. But in tournament-style Hold'em, it was all or nothing. I'd often find myself in the final 3 or 4 and just start taking risks and playing worse because I wanted to be done. Some nights, the last 2 people would decide to split the pot because it was getting late and everyone was tired, but often it would just go down to the bitter end. I quickly started to miss the days when there was more variety in how we played, and ultimately I stopped going to poker night because I didn't have the time to see these winner-take-all games all the way through. Cool story, bro, but I thought this was a D&D channel. What are we talking about here? Well, maybe you picked up on this, but my little poker story was something of an allegory for the current state of Dungeons & Dragons. In the last few years, actual play shows and podcasts have come on the scene and revolutionized the world of tabletop role-playing games. And I'm not hating, it's been great. A lot of them are very entertaining, and these games have never been more popular because of it. They've been bringing new people in and showing them a specific way to play, which a lot of people see as the only way to play. But those of us who have, traveled deep down this rabbit hole, or folks who were around when the deep magic was written, know of older styles of play that can make it way easier to bring all of these new folks or returning folks back to the table, while also making it way easier for the Dungeon Master to run a consistent game and just get everybody playing more Dungeons & Dragons. Look, whether you love it or hate it or have never seen it, we can all agree that Critical Role is the equivalent of the World Series of Poker in my story. Stranger Things is Rounders. Season 1 started in the middle of a campaign and went 115 episodes. Then Season 2 started at level 1 and went for 141 episodes. A game pretty much every Thursday night for 3 years, 3 to 4 hours each session, sometimes more, coming in at a grand total of 537 hours of play, and they didn't even hit level 20, gang. Now, I know Critical Role isn't responsible for this idea so much as a product of it, but the fact is most folks think this is the standard for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. The gold standard, maybe, but still the standard. 3 to 4 hours once a week for years, telling a big, overarching narrative focused on the same core characters. Sometimes somebody can't make it, and the DM has to bend over backwards to make it make sense in the narrative. And if someone drops out of the campaign for like scheduling reasons or interpersonal reasons, it can be super disruptive and leads to the end of the campaign and, you know, maybe game night entirely. And also, look, I'm not here saying this is a bad way to play. Investing that amount of time and energy into a collective creative endeavor with your friends or family can be an incredible experience that yields awesome results. You put in that kind of time and build up the trust like that, and things can get crazy intimate. I've shed tears over dead characters and campaign conclusions, but that is not the only way to play D&D, and I think the idea that it is might actually be doing some damage. One, we Dungeon Masters can sometimes feel like failures when things fall apart and the campaign doesn't go the distance, right? And that's the way things happen most of the time. Even though we just spent like 20 weeks in a row sharing these epic moments, it can leave us trying to figure out what we did wrong instead of celebrating the fact that we brought our people together and had a lot of fun. Ever feel like that, or is it just me? Let me know in the comments. Two, it makes it way harder for people to start with D&D, really. It puts a tremendous amount of pressure on someone who's thinking about becoming a Dungeon Master, absolutely, but even for a player who's just expected to show up maybe with a character sheet, this big commitment can be a tremendous ask and a powerful barrier to entry. I don't know if you know this about me, but I like getting new people into D&D, and it did not take long for me to figure out that inviting people to come one time and try it out had a way bigger success rate than asking people what they were doing every Tuesday night for the next 6 months to a year. Justin Alexander has a great series of blog posts about this idea. I'll link to them down below. He covers a lot in that series, but one thing I really like is he uses the analogy of playing catch versus joining a baseball team. If I've never played baseball before, I'm probably not going to sign up to practice once a week and devote my weekends to games for the next half a year. If you want me interested, it's probably better to start slow and keep it casual. Invite me to play some catch. There's a flip side to this too. Of course, you probably want to play with me at least once or twice before you commit to having me on your team. Maybe I'm not very good at baseball. Maybe I don't really care that much, right? And distract the other people around me with random stuff. Or maybe I'm a selfish player who sucks the fun out of the game for others. If my goal is to form a team, playing catch with a bunch of different people is a great way to build up and feel out a large number of candidates and find a group who will work well with me and each other. Or maybe you're at a point in life where you're not looking for league play because of other commitments or priorities, and you're just looking for some casual pickup games. That makes me think of basketball more than baseball. Not that I'm a huge sports guy, mind you, could you tell? In a lot of places you can, go play basketball with a different group of people on any given day, just make teams out of who is around and get playing. When I was a kid, we would play horse and knockout, just kind of like shoot hoops for hours. We played all the time because we weren't trying to organize a regulation length game with full teams. Now, I'm not a kid anymore, and I don't just walk down the block to, see who's outside. If I don't put it on the schedule, it's not happening. One, because I'm a busy adult, and two, because I'm an introvert. But if there's a big pool of potential people to play with, it's way more likely I'm going to get 4 to 6 of us together on any given game night. And if I set my campaign up to make it easy for people to come and go, then I can open up the table to a lot of different people. And having someone not be able to make it last minute or, cancel isn't going to derail the game. The simplest approach to this that you can do is to run one-shots. We talked about some awesome free ones that are out there in this video, and the comment section there has some other great recommendations from the community. Feel free to add your own if you've got a good one. You can also pull pieces out of longer campaigns to get a standalone night's worth of material. And Dragon of Icespire Peak from the Essentials Kit is maybe a little weak as a cohesive adventure, adventure, but pretty great as a series of loosely interconnected one-shots, because even if you're running a more casual open table like this, I bet as the DM, you're going to gravitate towards having a consistent world where all of these adventures are happening. One, it's fun, but two, I find it makes it way easier to keep track of things and to create new things. We'll talk more about the logistics of running a game like this later, because I'm not done telling you all the great reasons you'd want to in the first place. Let's ditch this sports metaphor and get back to poker. Back when we weren't locked into emulating the people on television, we played a bunch of different styles of game. Hell, even those Texas Hold'em guys were playing Raz half the time, right? Changing things up is great, and it keeps things fun and interesting. In D&D, you do give up something when you let go of telling one grand narrative with the same characters, sure, but you gain the ability to do wildly different things each night if you want to. I love variety, and I think we've all been several sessions deep into a dungeon or campaign arc and been, let's say, ready for the next adventure. And the idea of rotating who's dealing doesn't really make sense in today's typical D&D game, but stretch your mind a little bit and imagine a game where a different person was DMing every session. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's possible. Hell, it could be a lot of fun. What if a player stepping up to give the forever DM a break to prevent burnout and, actually see what playing the game is like was the rule and not the exception? And what if agreeing to be the dungeon master was only a one-night commitment? I bet more people would be willing to give it a try. Imagine being like the main DM and leaving room in your game world for someone else to come in and drop a one-shot or even a mega dungeon that they could run for a session or two. That was kind of the built-in assumption in the early days of D&D, back when it was all dungeons all the time, right? Everyone was the master of their own multi-tiered dungeon, and these dungeons existed in a shared world, ideally all a convenient distance from a common starting town. Your character could delve into my dungeon today and her dungeon next week and become an NPC in town while you're running the week after that. Or you could have a stable of characters to pick and choose from, right? Got all of those backup characters you've been tinkering with? Get them into play. I think I'll try the Paladin tonight, right? Doesn't it make sense to maybe take game night a little more casually instead of trying to emulate professional productions? Sometimes you just want to shoot some hoops, not hold yourself to the standards of an NBA game. And if you do want to start a team, playing some pickup games is the best way to get there. Hell, you don't even have to pick and choose. You have the time. You can be doing both of these things. Now, you might be thinking that this all sounds great in theory, but how do you handle this all logistically? More players and more characters just feels like they'll lead to more complications. Well, I've experimented with a few approaches to these more casual open table styles of play, and I think one simple key that unlocks these options for you is having a home base where all of the characters begin and end each adventure. And using the Safe Haven Homebrew variant rule that we talked about in the rest video makes that simple. You could combine this with a player-led approach that takes a lot of the work off the DM's plate and run a West Marches style campaign. It's a big topic that I'm excited to dive into next time. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, want to help me make more of them and get some cool perks in the process, consider joining us on Patreon. Take care, have fun, be kind, and I'll see you next time in the West Marches.